Put your winner's V up, your victory pose. Put your 3 crowns in the comments. I want to greet you in Imago Day. Sorry about that. I had my hand in the way of the camera, but put your winner's V up. Put your victory pose up and don your crown. Put your 3 crowns in the comments or your crowned emoji, female or male, and greet me in Imago Day in the image and the likeness of God. I want to welcome you to the Tuesday night edition of You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average. And yes, I'm wearing shades tonight, okay? I'm wearing my shades. No, I'm not beat up. No, I'm not high. But since I'm talking about the namesake of my Tuesday night and Thursday night broadcast, which is You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average, every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock p.m. on Facebook, I'm on here on You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average. Every Thursday night on Instagram, I may be about to change that and start maybe going on YouTube or something, but for years, for at least 3 years, I think. More than that, but at minimum 3 years, I was on Facebook Live every Thursday night on You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average. Did a lot of great work there, helped a lot of people, and then my Facebook account got shut down, okay? Which I know that's the meaning I'm on the brink of something great. But I came back stronger now. I'm doing 2 nights a week. God just has so much to share through me. But tonight we're talking about the namesake. You've been through too much to be average. That's what I call, that's what I call my Tuesday night lives and my Thursday night lives. That's also how I end a lot of videos. That's one of my favorite slogans. That's one of my personally coined phrases. You've been through too much to be average, because indeed you have been through way too much to be average. And so when you get on here, I want you to please just do one thing for me. Put your 3 crowns in the comments, or put the little female emoji that wears the crown, or the little male emoji in whatever complexion you think is closest to you. And I'm wearing the glasses tonight because this is going to be a live that is definitely not average, okay? And so tonight I just want to talk about that. You've been through too much to be average. Why I call my Thursday night live and Tuesday night live sessions that, and why I feel God gave me that phrase, or gave me that proverb, you've been through too much to be average, because indeed I've been through a lot in my life. But really, I'm going to say this. Let me go ahead and give a disclaimer. This book right here, I've been doing a lot of posting about this book right here, Viola Davis's Finding Me. If you know Viola Davis, she's a very, very, very talented actress, very powerful, very emotional. She can bring people in, and if you read that book, you'll know why. Part of her escape from trauma was to, imagine being someone else to get herself out of that. And so, of course, she's a prime example of my slogan, you've been through too much to be average. When you have... in this book, I talk about it, a New York state of mind. I call it, when you relate to trauma, it's based on it, looking at it by a New York state of mind, okay? And so, because, let me say this, I saw some crazy things in my life. As a matter of fact, one of my other this is probably my first favorite slogan is this. As a girl, I saw things no child should ever see. But as a woman, God has blessed me to see things that most people would never see, right? So that quote is one of my favorite quotes. All right, that's probably my single first favorite quote. But then also, I say you've been through too much to be average. That's what I named these live sessions, and I close out a lot with that. But back to my favorite quote. Okay, as a girl, I saw things no child should ever see. But as a woman, God has blessed me to see things that most people would never see. I said that to say that I saw a lot of things growing up, and I saw some things that were really devastating to me, and some things that really hurt me, some things that really wounded me, some things that traumatized me. But when I tell you again, when I read this book right here, I'm not finished reading it yet. When I read this book right here about Viola Davis's life, I told somebody the other day, I'm like a rich kid from Beverly Hills, a trust fund baby, compared to the things that Viola Davis went through. Okay, the level of poverty that she grew up in, the level of abuse that she witnessed. I am, compared to her, I'm from Beverly Hills, right? And of course, everybody knows I'm not from Beverly Hills. But you've been through too much to be average is this. You saw a lot of things in your life. A lot of you all have are survivors of ACEs. Okay, I'm not going to say victims. You're the victor, meaning you were victorious. You're the victor or the survivor of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, which are traumatic events that happen between the ages of 0 and 18, or even after 18, let's say, there are other traumas that you have been through, and you've been through so much that it could really be a blockbuster movie. It could really be a Hollywood hit if you really told your story. And that's why really a lot of you all should be telling your story, because there's some way that God called you to, or some way that's going to make for you in somebody's life. Your story gives you access to people's lives. And so many of you have been through way too much to be average. You've been through some things, like I said, that if you put it in a book, it would sell. If you put it in a movie, it would sell. If you told people, they would not believe it. They would think you were making it up. Now, there are some things, like I said, in Viola Davis's book, I was like, surely this can't get any worse, several times. And this was early on in the book, but of course it kept getting worse. She grew up in a horrendous life. On a scale of 1 to 10, when I talk about the circumstances I grew up in, I would have to give myself maybe like a 4.5 compared to Viola, 4.5, 5, right? And she's probably like an 11 on a scale of 1 to 10 based on that book. And many of you have had similar things going on, from sexual abuse, molestation, rape, drug use in the household, mental illness in the household, extreme poverty, racism. All this she dealt with, besides not drug use, but there was alcoholism in her house. And on a level, like for instance, I realized, and my ACE score changed from a 3 to a 4. I realized that, even though we were playing, and I was in consent of it, and I was playing, that when in this book right here, in the CDC, you can Google the ACEs quiz, the 10 questions that give you your ACEs score, your adverse childhood experience score. I didn't realize until studying the material for a little bit that my ACE score had to change from a 3 to a 4, because I had been sexually violated, because even though I was in consent and I was playing and I was a part of the activity, nobody forced me to do anything. But the question is, did someone 5 years or older, matter of fact, I can look up the question now, that I had to add a point to my ACE score, right? So it says that between the age of 0 and 18 years of age, did an adult or a person at least 5 years older than you ever touch or fondle you, or have you touched their body in a sexual way, or attempt or actually have oral, anal, or vaginal intercourse with you? Okay. So like I said, for the longest time, I thought my ACE score was a 3 until I read that question more carefully, and realized that if the person's 5 years older than you, even if you are playing house or you're playing whatever, cheerleader in football, high school or whatever, even if you think you're a part of it and you're consenting, that 5-year age range actually gives that person an advantage over you. And then I start to look at it and see that it may have affected, my sexual behavior. Of course, now it was in a good way, because I saved myself for marriage. It may have affected the way I felt about, men, and about, just a lot of things that went with that. So, but that was something, like I said, it happened one time, and I was a part of it. I consented to it. It was something that I wanted to do by playing, whatever we were playing, we were pretending. But then there were other people that were sexually molested or violated, raped, or, abused on a continual basis at really young ages, and continued throughout their life by people that were close to them, that were just violated. And so, like I said, even though one of my favorite quotes is that as a girl, I saw things no child should ever see, but as a woman, God blessed me to see things that most people would never see. Even with that, I do believe, I've heard people's stories. I know people personally, not just, Viola Davis, who I don't know except for in that book and seeing her in movies, but people that I know on a deeper level, I know a little closer. I see them and realize that, I live a rich, spoiled kid from Beverly Hills life compared to other people's trauma. Okay, because even though I had my ACEs score is 4 out of 10, and they say when you hit the score of 4 that you're more likely to have a lot of ill-fated behaviors such as drug addiction and mental illness and that kind of thing, which none of those things apply to me. Thank God for his grace. Thank God for covering me. And that's why I'm on here tonight talking about the namesake of this live every Tuesday and Thursday night is you've been through too much to be average. When you have come through, I know for a fact, even though compared to some other people's trauma, mine is nothing, but then compared to other people's life, it is everything. Like I really have a life that most people would not know just by looking at me, or would not know just by, looking at some of the things that God has blessed me to achieve. And so I know, and I know God, before I could share it with anybody else, God gave me the slogan that you've been through too much to be average. I knew that even though I had achieved some things, I wanted more, and I wanted greater, and I know that there's still much more for God to do for me and through me, mainly through me, because how I came into this world was, it was all inspiring. How I came into the circumstances by which I was conceived and in which I was birthed into the world, in which I grew up, were traumatic, and like I said, not nearly as traumatic as other people, but I know for a fact that if I can get through that, I can get through anything. So really, I'm on here tonight to encourage somebody, because this is what God gave me. He said, really, the way you came into the world sets precedent. How the way you came into the world sets precedent many times for how you're to be in the world. Okay, let me say it again. God spoke to me and said, how you came into the world a lot of times sets precedent for the way that you're supposed to be in the world. And what I mean by that, not necessarily that if you came into the world under bad circumstances, you're supposed to live a life of bad circumstances. No, he was saying, God said to me, and he compared it to Jesus and Moses and a few other people, but especially Jesus and Moses. Jesus came into the world. Of course, everybody wasn't spiritual. Even Mary had to be convinced by the angel and by the Holy Spirit that, hey, listen, you have to accept this thing that you are impregnated by the Holy Spirit. And guess what? Everybody around her did not. We were in the biblical days, but everybody wasn't thinking like Jesus. Everybody didn't have the mind of Christ or the mind of God. And so you have people saying that, this girl is supposed to be married. Either they're having sex or even her own fiance, Joseph, saying, well, she must have had sex with somebody. Either way, even if the word got out on the streets that Joseph said, is not my baby, the baby belongs to the Holy Ghost. I don't even know if he shared that, but based on how they said his character was, he probably never even told anybody. But either way, Jesus came into the world through, with a stepfather. Really, he came into the world in a way that was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And so God told me, he said, you came into the world in a way that was unbelievable, meaning that, and I'll explain that to you. The way I came into the world, my mother was, by the time she had me, I was her fourth and final child. By the time she had me, she was, I think, 21, maybe 22 with 4 children. And 2 of them she had already given away for adoption. Okay. And it's an amazing story how I reunited with them about 10, 12 years ago, just by, God putting it in place. There's no other way, but a miraculous happening by him, right? But my birth mother at that time, at the time that she had me and carried me, she had become addicted to hard drugs like heroin. Crack had just entered the scene then. I don't know how prevalent it was yet then, because I know it was very prevalent in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, right? But I was born in 81, the very beginning of the 80s. And she was on crack, she was on heroin, she was drinking and doing all types of stuff. So my mother, when she carried me, she exposed me to crack, cocaine, heroin, alcohol. Not only that, so she was giving me bad things, or exposing me to bad things, but then the things that she should have been providing for me, like prenatal care, rest, and vitamins and that kind of thing, and not stress. All that stuff she was partaking in. So the stuff that I needed and should have had, she was not doing. And the things that I should not have had, like the drugs and the alcohol and the stress and the running the streets, she was doing that. And so when God said to me that the way you came in this world is a representation, or it sets the precedent somewhat for the way that you are to be in this world, the life you're to lead in this world. Not saying that you should be on drugs or you should have negative circumstances. He said that it was a miracle how you came into this world. It was a miracle how Jesus came into this world. And so Jesus was, from that point on, he was a miracle. And my apostle just really pointed that out to us recently. And he sent out something, I got mine yesterday. I just opened it, and then he sent out some stuff on email and everything. I think he released it in some messages just saying that not only when we're in the supernatural life and where we're expecting to be and growing the dimension that we're in now, you're supposed to expect miracles every day. And then he said you're to be a miracle. And when I thought about that, that's how God really drove it home to me about, I had already started planning to deliver this "You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average" message tonight. But then he drove it home even further and said, look at Jesus, look at Moses. The way you come into this world, Don't be discouraged if you came into this world and you never knew your father. Your father didn't want you. Your mother didn't want you. You were almost aborted, but they didn't have the money, or they used the money for drugs or whatever, or I even said that sometimes. I say I would have probably been aborted if my mom didn't have such a drug addiction. If she had money to abort me, of course she probably shot it up or smoked it up. And so the way that you got here, the way that Jesus got here was a miracle. Okay, to be born from a virgin, right? To be the way that Jesus got into the world was a miracle, and from that point on, he was a miracle, and he delivered miracles to people. The way I got here was a miracle because many people expected me. When you're exposed to that much, many people expect you to either be born to be stillborn, to not make it full term, to have something wrong with you, some kind of deficiencies or defects or something, or some kind of syndrome or something, or to be born stillborn, or to be born with a lot of emotional trauma and that kind of stuff. None of that stuff. Thank God. Glory to God. That's why I know that I've been through too much to be average. That's why I know that if he covered me through all that, he didn't cover me through all that and bring me through to be healthy and strong and intelligent and blessed and anointed and gifted to just do nothing, to just to get at a place and stagnate. If you're going to listen, I've heard people say this, like on a football team or a basketball team, on a sports team. I've heard people say that the coach, the only reason the coach is gets on to you and he get mad at you and he stay on you is because he sees something in you. If you weren't about anything, or the people that he knows is not about anything, he don't really care about them. I've seen that. People is like, well, he ain't gonna be nothing nowhere. And you're like, well, why the coach stay on this person more, stay on that person more? You'll see, I've heard actual coaches say that, or other players or people, mentors say that, the reason I stay on you, or the reason the coach stays on you, the reason the pastor stays on you, because he sees so much in you. And I've seen it as a teacher, being in a school system, being in a school. I've seen certain people. I don't know if I've ever done it like this, or I probably have. I'm sure I have. Certain people that that are not trying to do right and they don't have much to offer anyway. It's like, don't worry about them. The person that has potential, but they just need some guidance. They need some direction. They're going in the wrong path. Matter of fact, I think it was my third book that I wrote was Where Is Her Mama, right? Practical advice and wise counsel for our daughters. Okay, and so I did that because I knew that based on how some of these girls dressed, how they looked, how they act, the things they spoke, how they let guys treat them, they did not have an example of a real woman in their lives constantly before they got to my class, and of course probably after they left my class. Now of course there are other women in community and family, but some kids just don't go around that. All they know is their mother, or their grandmother, or whoever. And so the question, like that book was based on that. And so some people you see, some young ladies, some young men, you see they have potential. They may be unruly, they may be rowdy, they may be violent, they may have whatever, but you see something in them and you're like, hey, that person can make it. They really are argumentative, they're really good at debating, they could be a lawyer, they're just violent, or they're just they're lazy or whatever, and you see something in them and you're like, hey, I want to invest, invest in you, buy low and sell high. I want to invest in them while they're low. I want to help build them up because I know they can be something. Not that you're necessarily trying to get the return on investment, but the fact that you see the return on investment, that, hey, this person has the potential to be something. So, I'm going to deal with them. I'm going to help them deal with that attitude. I'm going to help them deal with that lack of discipline. I'm going to help them deal with that. And so, when God revealed that to me and he said, listen, I brought Moses, how he came into the world, born into slavery. His mama had to give him away. And really, God, in this book right here, I discuss how I overcame abandonment, or overcame what a lot of people, the trauma that a lot of people suffer from abandonment. I did not have it because it really wasn't until 2020 when I buried my birth mother that God gave me this revelation. But I wasn't even before this revelation, I didn't have a problem with abandonment. What I mean by that, abandonment, some people suffer the ace or the trauma of abandonment when their mother doesn't want them and leaves them. Their father or their father both may be on drugs, or one, father just may be a deadbeat dad, the mom, whatever, maybe young, didn't want to have kids, left them with the grandmother. Some people suffer with what is called the trauma of abandonment. So the parent walked out on them, the parent left them. And of course, innately inborn in us is a desire for our parents, especially our mother, right? Well, really, especially our father. When I talked about that before, why the baby's first words are dada, okay? And a lot of people, especially women, get upset. Like, I'm here with this joke all the time. The dad ain't even nowhere around, but dada comes out first. And it's because, even though, researchers say it's because dada is easier to form with the mouth. But if we look in the Bible, you see that on the inside of us is created in an innate desire, a calling to cry out for Abba Father, right? And so, so on the inside of us, there's an innate longing for our real mother and father. Okay. Now, of course, if you know them, okay. And even if you don't, sometimes there's something missing. My brother, who my mom gave up for adoption in between me and my elder sister, she gave up 2 kids in the middle. And I told you it's a miraculous story how I found them about 12, 13 years ago, maybe. Even my brother said, even though he was adopted and his adopted parents never told him he was adopted, he always felt something. He always felt a missing link. And I think my sister is the same way also. Some things she's still dealing with. But when I went back to the fact that, like I said, I never had the issues or the trauma of abandonment. Many people do when your parent walks away from you, whether it's because of drugs or alcohol or because they just didn't want to be a parent. They don't have time for you. Their new husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend was more important than you. A lot of kids have abandonment issues, and so later on that trauma bleeds over. That's an ace that if you don't play that ace, it bleeds over, and what it causes is is this trauma of abandonment. Like you feel like people you in relationships before somebody else can end it. And so it may be a perfectly good relationship. The person has wonderful intentions towards you, and you don't. The person has perfect intentions towards you. They may be a great person. They may love you. As a matter of fact, another one of my favorite personal quotes. God gives me a lot of things, a little sayings, but I put it in this book as well that says, "Don't let all the raw deals in your past cause you to miss out on the real deal in your future." Okay, don't let all the raw deals in your past that you were dealt cause you to miss out on the real deal that's in your present, okay, or your future. And so what that means, like the trauma of abandonment, when a parent or both parents left a child, and that child knew that parent and had a connection with that parent, and there's a longing in there for them. Then when it comes later on in life, they haven't dealt with it. They haven't played that ace. And so the trauma of abandonment causes you to abandon relationships because you fear somebody's going to leave you. It causes you to always mistreat people because you don't want them to think that you're too invested in them. These are aces at play, right? As I say, adverse childhood experiences that are showing up in adulthood. It's the trauma in childhood that's ruining adulthood for people. People can't stay in a healthy relationship. They can't keep healthy relationships at work, so they can't keep a good job, or they stay in trouble on the job. They're stressed on the job because it could be the fear of abandonment. And so God helped me I never had the thing of abandonment going on in my life. Now some of my other siblings may have, one in particular that I'm thinking of, but I never had that. For one thing, I know I've been through too much to be average. I knew God had covered me and called me. He preserved my soul. The Bible talks about in Psalm 121 that he'll preserve your soul. The Bible also talks about in Psalm 23 that he'll restore your soul. So some things I actually did go through, but God restored my soul. Okay, and some things he just kept me and covered me from. So he preserved my soul. He covered me, right? Preserved, you put them in the jar and all the elements around them don't affect them. The pears in a preserved jar last way longer through the air and the heat and all that kind of stuff than a pear that's just outside of the jar, just sitting on the table. And so God preserved my soul. And so I never had the trauma or the ace of abandonment. I never dealt with that. I never felt, one thing is my mom, if you know about, some of you have heard my story, my birth mother didn't even take me home from the hospital. I don't know if she did skin to skin, or I don't even know if skin to skin was a thing back then. Okay. And I don't think it was. Over all the years, I don't think I remember hearing skin to skin until, recently, like a little bit before I had my children. But my birth mother, like I said, out of all the 4 kids she had, by the time she had me, she was strung out on hard drugs, pretty severely. Okay, so I don't even know. She was wild. She really didn't. I don't think she wanted children. My oldest sister was old enough to kind of see about herself, not really, but in my mom's eyesight, she was maybe 7 or 8. Okay, so when she gave the 2 middle children up for adoption, they were little babies. They were hindrances to her, right? And then later on, a few years later, she had me. And so, but she got arrested. The cops were looking for her. Like I said, she was heavy into drugs then, so doing who knows what to get drugs. And so when she had me, of course, once she recovered in the hospital, the cops were waiting there to take her to jail. Now think about that. I thought about that recently as well. God showed me another trauma. I wasn't necessarily, I was thinking about my birth mother, but when you think about, I've seen that happen with other relatives. They didn't have a baby, but another relative got shot. And once he recovered and he was getting ready to leave the hospital, his mom thought she was getting ready to take him home, but the cops came and got him. He went to jail. Okay, same thing with my birth mother. So one reason I don't think I suffered the trauma or the ace of abandonment or being connected to her and then disconnected like my other siblings is I never really had bonding time with her outside of, being inside of her belly. And I don't think it was too much bonding then, because I definitely, I could be wrong, but some of the things that I did and I learned to do by the time I was a mother, like talking to your baby, praying to your baby, and, singing and making sure you don't get stressed and that kind of thing. She probably wasn't doing that. She definitely wasn't doing the physical things that I needed, the prenatal physical stuff like food and rest and staying away from drugs and alcohol. And so outside of the bonding that may have happened while I was inside of her, we didn't really bond. I don't think skin to skin was around then. Even if it was, I don't even know if she was, on that level like that. I think she was probably kind of over motherhood and wanting to be a mother at that time based on her decisions, her past decisions to give away my 2 middle sister and brother, and my older sister was pretty much left to herself and being taken care of by other people then. So back to what I was saying, I didn't have time to bond with her and connect with her. When she recovered from having me, the cops came and took her to jail, and so I went home with my aunt, with my second eldest aunt. And of course they talk about, the stories always come up of how, they didn't have anywhere for me to sleep, so they pulled out a drawer, they made it up, and I slept in a drawer as a newborn, right? And I was with them and for a good part of my young life, and they were getting ready to adopt me when my elder aunt's husband got killed in a car crash, and she just went over the edge, and she suffered a trauma that led her into some other unhealthy lifestyles as well, into heavy drug addiction as well, and we traveled and we were homeless and we were without food, and we didn't see her a lot of times. But that's just some of the trauma. But like I said, the way I got here, similar to Jesus, similar to Moses, born into slavery, mother had to give him away, and God revealed to me in 2020 when I buried my mother that just like Moses, in order for Moses to be somebody great, his mother knew, she could not serve him best. She was a slave, and not only was she a slave, meaning that Moses would probably be raised as a slave, but also Moses probably wouldn't have even lived, because during that time, the Pharaoh was killing all of the babies, trying to figure out there was a in order to keep the people from growing, Pharaoh was killing all the babies. I'm thinking about when they were killing babies trying to find Jesus during the time of his birth. But Pharaoh, because the people were enslaved and he didn't want the people to become stronger and powerful by growing, they were killing all the male babies. And so Moses' mother had to let him go. And so God gave me, I had a peace about it, but he gave me like a total peace in 2020 when I buried my birth mother at the young age of, I think, about 61. Really, I buried her about 45 because she was paralyzed, and really not somewhat of, not a total vegetable, but just not really highly incapacitated the last 15 years of her life because somebody beat her nearly to death within inches of her life, left her unrecognizable behind a common drug hangout in a part of town that's commonly known for just extreme crime, violence, drug abuse, and all types of things go. They left her there. So really, I buried my mom when she was about 45. Okay, and then I buried her for real, like put her body in the ground on 10/10/2020. And so, but I had a piece, like I said, I was never really attached to my mother, my birth mother, like I know my oldest sister was, and of course my two middle siblings got given away for adoption, so they weren't attached at all, even though they still had a longing in them. They still had issues because of the innate natural connection between a mother. And like I said, my brother, my sister, who was given for adoption, and I found doesn't really talk to us, but my brother said, he always felt like there was a disconnect between he and his adopted parents, even though he didn't know he was adopted or they hadn't told him, but he kind of felt like it, there was something missing. And so I've always had kind of a piece about, my mother. I didn't have that issue, that trauma, that ace of abandonment, like why she didn't want me, and I'm not going to let anybody in my life, and I'm going to sabotage relationships. I was never like that, and I never longed for her. And I think it's because we didn't really have an abundant time. But God gave me a total peace and just a very happy peace recently about it when I buried her in 2020, because I actually preached her eulogy. And when I was studying for it, God told me that hey, you're just like Moses. Moses became very great. God said he led people out, and that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to, of course, the Joshua anointing is what he gave me, and what the calling that I identified with and the anointing I identified with years ago. But he said, like Moses, though Moses was a great leader, and he led a lot of people out. A lot of people were better because of him. They were free because of him. You're going to do the same thing. And he said, don't think about your mom. And like I said, I never had an issue with it, but he gave me this to give to, as I eulogized her, and also to share with you even today. And different other people, like it's in the book. I put it in this book, and I share it during my trainings, and it helps some people overcome the trauma of abandonment. Play that ace of abandonment. You'll be surprised how many people come up to me during the trainings and say, and they're in tears, this is changing my life. I never looked at it this way. I never, you're amazing. Bless you, right? But the peace that God gave me, he said, you're just like Moses. You were destined to be great. You're destined to lead a lot of people out. A lot of people's destinies are connected to you. And so your mother had to give you up, because and I actually was able to share this with one of my sisters wasn't there, but my brother and my sister at the funeral. They may have got some peace about some things. Like, you may feel bad. This helps people overcome the trauma or the ace of abandonment. You can look at it this way, that because God knew you were going to be something great, and he knew that in your parents' hands, whatever parent gave you away, whatever person walked out of your life, if Moses had stayed in his mother's arms and she tried to keep him, either he would have grown up a slave, and God didn't need that, or he would have died as a baby, because they were killing Hebrew babies because Pharaoh was angry and didn't want the people to grow stronger than the Egyptians who were enslaving them, right? And so that just embodies this whole attitude of you've been through too much to be average. I know that anytime I think about slowing down, anytime I think about, and compared to a lot of people, and I'm so grateful for what God has done through me, what he's done for me, how he's blessed me to write and publish books, some of them bestsellers, to help people all over the world, to travel the world for business and for pleasure, to travel the world teaching and learning, growing, enjoying my life, to do things that having to deal with that forerunner friction. Y'all know that's my term that one day will be in the dictionary. Having to be the first person to achieve certain things, the first person to escape certain things, and even being able, God says he is to whom much is given, much is required. And so he gave me the grace to overcome some, that forerunner friction, to carry the load, not just the load of achieving, but the load that people put on you for achieving, right? That forerunner friction. But I said that to say I'm blessed. I know I'm blessed. I'm so grateful to God. He is amazing. I love him. I know I definitely would not be who I am. I would not have what I have. I would not have experienced and been able to do and see some of the things that I've done and seen based on where I came from, based on the negative statistics and odds that were against me and that surrounded my life because of kids born, to crack addicted mothers and kids born in poverty and all the, the statistics about drugs in my family and alcoholism and abuse and all this kind of stuff, right? I know without a shadow of a doubt that it's God's grace. As Paul said, I am that I am by the grace of God. It's no way possible that I could have made it out. Matter of fact, I was thinking about a line that I had in some poetry that I wrote, and I said I was going to try to look for it to share it on here tonight, but I didn't get a chance. Maybe I'll share it on Tuesday or Thursday night on Instagram. But the line in the poem says something like this. The reason I know that's why I made it out, like my girl Rose on the Titanic. After all the crazy stuff, Rose still made it out. So, and I said, I made it out like my girl Rose on the Titanic. And so I know there must be a reason for me to pilgrimage across this planet. Like, when you make it through all that, God has something for you to do. He didn't save you. Go back to that kid, on the football team. The coach stay on you because even though you're foolish and you're doing all kind of stupid stuff, he stay on you because he see talent in you. And so I know that when Jesus came as a miracle into the world from a virgin mother, he was supposed to do the miraculous throughout his life. That set the precedent. When I came as a miracle in the earth, I was supposed to be miraculous throughout my whole life. Some of you have been through too much to be average. You have already achieved so much overcoming in your life that you can overcome anything. Like I said in this book, I'm going to see what page it's on when I talk about a New York state of mind. And some of you all have heard of New York state of mind before. Jay-Z has the song New York State of Mind, but the slogan or the mindset has been around for years. Okay. The New York State of Mind is basically this. Now, hopefully I can tell you, because some of you all have the book. Some of you all need to get the book. Some of you all want to get the book. Just DM me if you want to get the book or put it in the comments. But New York State of Mind is this. There it is. So on page 54, the New York State of Mind. Okay. And this is like when I talk about ACEs, in the book I go through like what, when, where, how, right? And that's one of the easiest ways just to talk about something in depth as much as you can. You don't really know how to frame it. Just say, okay, what's the why, what, when, why, how. So why you should play your ACE, why you should play your adverse childhood experience before it plays you or before it continues to play you, before it plays another generation in your family. So the why, or not why, how, okay, how can you play your ACE before it plays you? Like, well, I'm caught up in this trauma. When I talked about the trauma of abandonment, some people deal with that issue, that ACE of abandonment. Your parents left you, your mother was a deadbeat, your dad was a deadbeat, whoever, somebody walked out of your life, you cared for them. So how do I play that ACE of trauma? I'm stuck in it. I just can't get over it. It just keeps taking me over emotionally. I feel bad. I feel heavy with it. I can't, it keeps sabotaging my relationships. I can't keep money because of it, because I'm trying to medicate a pain by buying things, by eating, by drinking and drugging. How do I play my ACE? And one way I say it, and I use this a lot because in my trainings, in the Play Your ACE training, it's a 5-hour training where I talk about helping people become trauma informed. And guess what? Thank God I just launched today, really like a soft launch of my new school, Trauma Training University, where it has that course, another course, and then some other events that I do, book studies, and I'm going to do a summit, and I do the trauma talks around the table and television. But thank God, you can put it in the comments. You can put a clap or a hand or congratulations or whatever, the little streamers or whatever, because today I did announce Trauma Training University. I'm the founder and creator of Trauma Training University, as well as the True Assessment, which is a modification of the DISC assessment. If you ever took the assessment that tells what kind of personality type you have, how you communicate best, how you deal with problems best, and then the other 3 personalities, how they deal with problems, how they communicate. It's a personality profile, and some people. I took emergenetics as well. That's another one of them. But the DISC profile, the DISC intermetrics profile. So I use that, but I tweaked it to talk about how you deal with trauma. Okay, how you deal with trauma and looking at how other people deal with trauma and how you can most effectively use that. Tap into your superpower. Tap into their superpower, and you can be more trauma responsive in your family, in your community, in your school, if you're a teacher, in your business, in your organization, right? So thank God for that. I'm so blessed for, for him birthing that through me. That's something fresh. Okay, as my apostle said, when you live in the anointing, you live in the supernatural, everything should be fresh. You should be doing things that people have not done, doing things to solve problems and bring healing and deliverance to the world. And so that's something God birthed through me. I'm so excited about Trauma Training University. I can award CEUs or continuing education units for that. For people who are doing professional development, I can, it's just innovative ways. Trauma talks around the table and television, getting ready to do another one of those events in a couple of weeks. Then another one. I want to do 2 a month, but right now it's looking like it's more like 1 a month. But of course, I can build up to that. But I'm proud of that. Like I said, I'm proud of God has done a lot of great things through me. But whenever I think about giving up, whenever I think about, just stopping where I am, whenever I think about slowing down, and of course, when I say slowing down, I'm not running as if, I'm tired and that kind of stuff. But if I just think about, well, hey, you've done enough, and people look at me and say, well, hey, you've published and written and published 7 books, 3 of them bestsellers. You've helped other people publish books and write books. You've traveled the world. You became a highly decorated teacher, one of the best in the state. Got awarded for that. Voted many awards by the students and the teachers and the administrators. You've done this. You've traveled the world. You've helped take care of your family. You've helped start businesses, and you retired at 35, and then you retired from the world system at this, and you did this. That's all great, and I know it's nobody but God, and I'm so grateful to him, but I know that there's always more. God says he's increasing me more and more, me and my children. That's Psalm chapter 115, verse 14. And it's so much more that God just saying that we should be going from glory to glory. So anytime I feel like giving up or feel like, this is enough, and people say, you've done enough, you need to slow down, you're being too aggressive, just rest some. I realize I've been through too much to be average. I realize that just like Jesus came into this world as a miracle from a virgin birth, just like I came into this world drug-free, disease-free, deformity-free, high intellect, just blessed and anointed, despite the fact that my mother exposed me to crack cocaine, heroin, her entire pregnancy, never got the care that she needed, never got the rest that she needed. The fact that I came into this world as a miracle is an indicator that it sets the precedent that my life is supposed to be a miracle. My life is, God didn't save me and bring me through unscathed, through all that, through not even that. And then, of course, my birth mother being hauled off to jail when she recovered from having me, never living in a house with me, never bonding with me. And then later on, my caregivers slowly, one by one, being almost all of them being picked off by the crack cocaine monster as well. And, being homeless at times, seeing a lot of violence, just bloody violence in my family, just seeing a lot of crazy things, being homeless, sleeping in abandoned buildings, being left alone and not having, food, not being, missing school and that kind of thing because my aunt was very strung out. All that kind of thing. I know that God didn't bring me through all that just to be average and to struggle. And not only just for me, not just for me to live a good life, but for me to tell other people, you have been through too much to be average. Some of you all on here, you need encouragement. You're feeling like giving up now. You're feeling like, I've been doing it too long and I still don't have a breakthrough. I've been doing it and it's too hard. It's always something. First of all, I've been telling you all the time, the last couple of things I did, when I did last couple of weeks, I did, maximizing, asking God to help you to maximize the connection in your life. Some people you just need to cut off, family member or not, you need to cut off, asking God to give you the anointing and the revelation to maximize connection and to manage disconnection, who you need to get away from, what you need to get away from, what you need to pull time, energy, and money from so you can pump time, energy, and money into this connection, okay? So you're making a disconnection over here so you can pull time, energy, and money resources that you've been using over here, and you can pump them into relationships over here, people and things that are dedicated to your destiny, that are influencing and affecting your destiny. We gotta make sure that you don't get caught up in aces and trauma, stuck to people, connected to people that are all about you know, perpetuating trauma, enabling trauma, searching for trauma. They're out, you know, they live to give life to trauma, and you're on the path to escaping it. You've been through too much to be average. God, you didn't come through all that for you just to live a normal life and to sit somewhere and be quiet. Okay, just like Moses, born to a slave mother, thrown, you know, given up in a basket and sent down the river. God knew that, just like he told to me, he knew that Victoria, Moses, you have something great to do in your life. You're going to be great, and many people are going to be great because of you. You're going to help them to be free. You're going to help them to escape average. You're going to help them to escape poverty and play aces, and they're going to go on and they're going to break those generational curses and bondages and traumas off of their bloodline. So not only will you affect the people in your lifetime, Victoria and Moses, but many people after that, generations after that. So millions of people, hundreds of millions of people. Think about how many people can benefit from Moses' story. Up until this day, it's hundreds of millions. Up in the end of the world, it's probably billions, trillions, whatever. It might even be billions now, right? It's in the billions now. It may even be in the trillions now of generations. Same thing. I'm telling you, you're looking at this, whether you're watching the playback or you're on here live. Stop right now. Put your 3 crowns in the comments, because you are made in Imago Dei, in the image and likeness of God, to create, to produce, to do the miraculous. Okay. When a seed goes in the ground, it goes under the earth, dies, is what is said. You water it, the sunlight comes, all the nutrients from the soil that God knew it would need, it pulls from that, and then of course something comes up, whether it's a flower, it's a tree, it's a fruit, a vine, a plant with fruits on it, whatever. That's a miracle. Okay, God says you have that capacity to produce, to take seeds and water them and nurture them and make them produce. That's a miracle. You came into this world as a miracle. Even if you didn't come into the world like me, you know, some people, you came into the world as a miracle. They said you weren't gonna make it. Your mom was too young or too old. She was too skinny. She was sick. Your dad had this, and he fed it to you. Your mom, like mine, was a drug addict. Your mom was an alcoholic. She never stopped drinking or smoking or shooting up when she was carrying you. Or, you know, she had severe emotional trauma. She was abused, and so that passed on to you. And you came through it unscathed. You came through it, and you may have come through it, and you were affected by it, but you overcame it. You know, like I said, in Psalm 121, God says he will preserve your soul. That's what he did for a lot of me. He preserved a lot of my soul. Things I went through didn't affect me. But then he also says, if you do go through it, in Psalm 23, he will restore your soul. He restoreth my soul. Continuously he does it. When my soul gets wounded, he restoreth it. Restoreth it means it's continual. Eth, when you see ETH at the end of something. Or TH, okay? My cup runneth over. He restoreth my soul. Let me take a hydration break. And so I want to encourage you guys that somebody on here, you feel discouraged. I know recently I felt discouraged about some things, and I know because I'm on the verge of a breakthrough. But realize that you absolutely have been through too much to be average. I'm very passionate and very conscious and very intentional about the name of this session that I do every Tuesday night and every Thursday night. You've been through too much to be average. Jesus came into the world defying odds and living as a living miracle. Now, he performed miracles, but just like my apostle recently pointed out, I'm like, man, that's fire. That's powerful. Not only did Jesus perform miracles, he was a miracle. He showed up and became a miracle. And my Apostle Thompson said, you know, not only should you expect miracles every day, the supernatural every day, and I've been doing that. He said, you need to get a journal, and I've been keeping my journal, and pretty much every day I'm writing in there supernatural things that are happening, and it's just going to get greater and greater, right? But as he said, not only are you supposed to expect miracles every day, but you're to be a miracle. You're to show up somewhere and be a miracle. And then God brought it home to me, and he said, listen, you need to share this on live. You're talking about you've been through too much to be average, right? God says how you came into this world, the circumstances that surrounded you before you were born and when you were born, set the precedent. If you came in here on a crazy, against crazy odds, God says it sets the precedent for how your life is supposed to be. So Jesus came in as a miracle, a jaw-dropping miracle. You know, everybody wasn't spiritual then. Everybody ain't spiritual now. Just think about if somebody in your family right now is engaged to somebody, and let's say it's your cousin Keisha. So your cousin Keisha is engaged to her boyfriend, her fiance, Rico. I like Rico. It means rich, right? I almost named my son Rico. Well, not almost, but I said I was. Somebody like, no, because of course, you know, how we know most Ricos I know, you know, like hood, whatever, but or we know it's a real, you know, cultural name. But Rico, Puerto Rico, the rich port, Rico means rich, right? But nevertheless, so let's say your cousin Keisha is engaged to her fiance Rico, right? So Keisha comes up pregnant and she says to Rico, you know what, let's say Rico is your cousin and Keisha is his fiance, okay? Rico is your cousin. So Keisha tells Rico, I'm pregnant, but I haven't had sex with nobody. We ain't had sex, but, you know, this is God's baby, right? I don't care if it was in the Bible days, because a lot of people didn't know Jesus. He was among them or whatever. Or I'm sorry, Jesus wasn't born yet, but this was, you know, everybody talking about the coming Messiah and stuff. But it's just like today. Everybody wasn't believers. Everybody didn't know the word of God. We're not in the spirit of God, right? And so imagine your cousin Rico, he's a guy, telling you that his fiance, Keisha, they've been saving themselves. They're not going to have sex, right? Or he's not having sex with her because she want to wait. But then she comes up pregnant. You and all your other cousins, boy, you stupid. You know that's God, baby. Man, please, this boy on something. He's smoking something. Y'all need to go talk to Rico because that girl pregnant from somebody else's baby, with somebody else's baby, and Rico up here believing it like a fool, talking about it's God's baby. God, what kind of fool? Is she crazy? Is he crazy? So you know that Jesus came into the earth with a stepfather. He came into the earth under circumstances that were not natural, that were not normal, were unorthodox, were unheard of. You know, people were whispering and talking. Even when he was a baby, people still probably were whispering. Because people just weren't into God like that. Or everybody wasn't into God and would know whatever, right? And like I said, based on the characteristics of how they described Joseph, he probably wasn't discussing it with people. He probably never even told whatever. But Jesus came as a miracle. He came in crazy circumstances. I came as a miracle. I came in crazy circumstances. Moses came. It wasn't necessarily a miracle to get him here, but it was crazy circumstances, right? And all three of us, and then you as well, came through, are destined to be great, because God said, I didn't save you through all that for you just to be nothing. If I knew you weren't going to be nothing, I probably could just let you go. I could have just let you die in the womb, or come here with some kind of issue or something, you know, where you can't talk or this, whatever. But God says, you've been through too much to be average. I'm telling you, God says to you, you've been through too much to be average. Okay? To whom much is given, much is required. You have been, yes, you can let your aces play you and use trauma as an excuse, or you can play those aces. You can look and say, hey, listen, on this book, I said page 54, a New York state of mind. I think I stopped explaining that, but a New York state of mind is this. Like I said, it's a concept, and you may have heard it in your lifetime. A New York state of mind says, and if you know what a New York state of mind is, put it in the comments right now. What do New Yorkers say when you have a New York state of mind? How do you feel about things? Let me take a hydration break. If you know what a New York state of mind is, what that slogan means, how people think when they're saying it, what's the idea when they say they have a New York state of mind or they're in a New York state of mind, what are they meaning by that? If you know that, put it in the comments while I take a hydration break. Thank you, Jesus. That was a long hydration break, but it was good. So on page 54 of my book, Play Your Ace Before It Plays You, How to Use Social Trauma for Empowerment Rather Than Imprisonment. On page 54, I talk about a New York state of mind, right? A New York state of mind. And I said, and I open up the section saying, how do you play your ace? Many people, so I went through what, when, where, how, what is an ace? You know, why should you play it? But how do you play it? Some people like, I just don't know how to get over it. I want to get out of this trauma, but I'm stuck. I find myself right back in the same negative behavior, medicating my pain, trying to escape my trauma with drugs and alcohol, with sex, with several people, bad relationships, more than, just doing all this unhealthy stuff, overeating, over shopping, doing all this kind of stuff. How do I escape? I think I'm over it, and then I'm right back. So one way you do it, and this is, I usually share this because somebody will have this question in a training, right? And I'll say, listen, you got to put yourself in a New York state of mind, all right? And this is simple, but these words are anointed. You listen at what I'm saying. Listen at what I'm saying and adhere to it. A New York state of mind says this. No, I don't see anybody put it in the comments. A New York state of mind says this. Okay, New Yorkers believe that New York is so rough and tough. It's so wild and crazy there. It's so full. It's so gritty and grimy. As in, I love New York. I love big cities, and it's a lot to do there. Manhattan, especially Manhattan. You got Broadway. You got the shopping, the city that never sleeps. I love it, right? But they talk about New York being what is it? So bustling, right? It's so fast moving, it's so fast paced, it's so aggressive that just the nature, the energy around it is aggressive. It's the city that never sleeps, right? So New Yorkers say this: New York is so rough and tough that they say if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Okay, so a New York state of mind says if you can make it here, you'll make it anywhere. So other businesses and cities and companies and stuff have adopted that sometimes, and they use it and kind of tweak it a little bit, or they'll just use it flat out and say that. But of course, New York is supposed to be the one who came up with it. That's why it's called a New York state of mind, that says if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. If you can find your way to make it in New York, you can go anywhere else, because New York is like the toughest of the tough, right? With the attitudes that people have, the fast pace, scams, there's all types of stuff. It's fast paced, fast moving, traffic, and all kind of stuff. And of course, there are other big cities like that, but New York was the first one to coin that phrase, I think. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Hey, Kennedy, put your 3 crowns in the comments. Great to see you. So when you take the New York state of mind and you apply it to trauma, like I said, it's on page 54 of my book. I tell people that when I tell them you've been through too much to be average, some of the things, some of us, just like Viola Davis in her book, I know now that I know her books, I have read her story or some of her story, which is heavy. It's a lot of just unbelievable abuse and poverty in there. That, like I said, it makes my story of trauma seem like I'm from Beverly Hills and I'm a rich, spoiled kid, which I'm not. Okay, but you can go through so much that you feel like you're made of iron, right? It's like, if I can make it through that, I can make it through anything. I tell people this all the time in the trainings. If you can make it, you made it through childhood neglect, you made it through the extreme poverty, you made it through abuse, you made it through racism and people being against you and saying, you made it through that forerunner friction, that you're the only one trying to do something in life, and because of that, everybody in the family wants to be against you, but you're the one that they really need, right? You made it through this, you made it through that, you made it through, divorce, you made it through being a child of divorce, and then you got divorced, you made it through losing this, you made it through this happening, you made it through all of this. If you can make it through that, you can make it through anything. I say that in the book. I don't know exactly what page, and it's probably in the section New York State of Mind, where I say that some of us were just blessed to go through so much as kids that we have no choice but to succeed. A lot of people go through stuff, but they're comfortable. They're at a comfortable level of uncomfortable. Like you're poor, but you're not poor enough. Now, Viola Davis was poor. When people say poor, like you take the OR off, she said that in this book, and I've heard people say that before. Now, she really was the PO, right? The OR can't even go there. They couldn't. That is some heavy. That's a good book. Read the book, right? Especially if you're an educator or you deal with people, especially young people in general. But it's a great book, right? But some of us have had so much going on in our lives, but that we can't help. It's nowhere to go but up. You can't help. Like, it's like, and of course, other people, they get played by their ace. They have the same level of trauma. They use it the other way and say, hey, I'm stuck in this. And that's why I love what I do. That's why I love that I'm called and chosen and anointed to help survivors escape average, to help people be more trauma informed, trauma responsive, to realize that trauma is common and that it kills, it destroys, it weakens, right? It makes lives miserable for people. A lot of people don't recognize it. They don't recognize how common it is in their family or somebody they're dealing with, or even in their own lives. They don't understand that trauma in childhood many times ruins adulthood if it's not taken care, if not addressed properly. They don't realize that it's a way to escape it, but you have to be strategic and intentional. And like I said, God has anointed me. He's anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor, to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance unto the captives, the recovering of the sight unto the blind, to set at liberty they that are bruised, and to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. And yes, I have my sunglasses on tonight. No, I'm not high. I don't use drugs. I don't drink. No, I didn't get abused by my husband. That will never, ever happen. But I'm doing that because tonight I said I'm talking about you've been through too much to be average. So I'm doing this live, everything but average. So I put my sunglasses on tonight just to do something different. But I know that everything I've been through, okay, good, bad, and ugly. When I say that I've seen, go back to my favorite quote. As a girl, I saw things that no child should ever see. But as a woman, God has blessed me to see things that most people would never see. What I mean by that, that's good, bad, and ugly, okay? And like I said, even though I saw some horrendous things, some of it is really nothing compared to this. But then again, it was a different type of trauma, because this was her mom being abused and them being super poor. We were poor, not that poor, okay? But then also, but the drug addiction was something that didn't happen there. They were alcoholic. Her dad was an alcoholic, but you know, drug addiction, the epidemic of crack cocaine hit really hard in my family. And I still have thoughts and sometimes not really nightmares, but just flashbacks about some of the things I saw as a result of that. And I know that I escaped it to help you escape. I know that I escaped when God showed me, he gave me that revelation about being parallel to Moses, that I made it out because my mother escaped. Excuse me, my mother abandoned me or left me, and I don't deal with abandonment issues because I knew that in her hands, just if I stayed in her life, in her care, like if Moses stayed in his mother, he would have been a slave or he would have been dead. My mother was enslaved to drugs, to crack cocaine and heroin, to the streets, to poverty, to mental issues and things that she had going on within herself, emotional issues, some aces that she didn't play. And so if I had remained in her care, I would have been born a slave like Moses or dead like Moses would have been because Pharaoh was killing, trying to keep the Hebrews from growing. He was killing all the male babies. So I came to grips with that. And I'm here to share it with you. I shared it in the book. I shared it when I eulogized my mom. I'm sharing it with you now. Some people that walked out of your life or that walked away from you, like your parents, it wasn't your fault. It's because you are a Moses. You are a Victoria. You're supposed to be something great. And in their hands, you never would have been. And so it wasn't about, it was God really allowing some things to happen for your good. It wasn't because of their bad necessarily, okay? And so when I say you've been through too much to be average, just like I tell people a more relaxed example when I talk about, people, in order for you to get to the place where you are doing exactly what God called you to do on the level he called you to do it, and you're you're reaching everybody God wants you to reach, and you're living the life that you will never know lack, you will never know struggle, you will never know shame. You live you spend your days in prosperity and your years in pleasure. That's Job 36:11. When you obey him and serve him, you eat the good of the land because you're willing and obedient. Isaiah 1:19, and you're seated in the heavenly places with him, and all this kind of stuff. You're blessed going and coming. The way you get there, you have to be in spirit. You got to be absent from your body and present with the Lord for him to show you this kind of stuff and help you to overcome this trauma and play these aces. And when you get there and you're able to help others escape, then of course you're going to be free, and you'll realize that if that didn't happen to you, you wouldn't be able, as I say a lot of times, your trauma, your issues, your problem, your pain, what you went through and overcame it, it's your door, your gateway into somebody's life. Okay, it's something that they went through, they're going through, they're discouraged about, they're doubting, they don't know if it's going to work, they don't know if they're going to make it, and you went through it and you overcame it. You learn to play that ace, and you're called to help them play that ace. You have been through too much to be average. If you were not going to be anything, God probably would have just left you alone. The coach doesn't pick on kids and help kids and stay on their behind when he know they don't have any talent anyway. You've heard that before. You've seen that before. Be encouraged tonight. You've been through too much to be average. Where you're living now, you're never supposed to be at that level. You're supposed to be way further. But tonight I'm helping you. You gotta play that ace. You gotta learn how to take a different mindset. Like in this book, I just told you two different mindsets. Instead of me feeling like, and I help a lot of people with this who have what they call abandonment. You have issues of abandonment. I call it's an ace of abandonment, a trauma, an adverse childhood experience. You were abandoned. Your mother didn't want you. Your daddy didn't want you. And so that's called abandonment. And so what happens is you have problems in relationships because you don't feel, you want to get out of relationships. Either you do it just flat out and say, I don't want to do it anymore, or I don't want to be involved, or you find a way to sabotage the relationship because you want to abandon them before they abandon you because you have abandonment issues. Okay. Same thing with jobs. You do stuff. Same thing with projects or goals that you set. That's because you haven't played the ace. But when you get the mindset that they didn't abandon you, they freed you to do what God called you to do, just like Moses' mom sending them up the river, just like my mom giving me and my sister and brother up for adoption. And later, well, that was a formal adoption, but later she gave me up for adoption to my aunts and then my sister as well. That was them freeing you from the life that you would have lived with them, because God knew you had, that more people were connected to you, that there would be more people that you lead and feed, okay? And so I want you to be encouraged tonight, no matter how hard it looks, no matter how it feels like you're going in circles. Be absent from your body, present with the Lord. Get in. Oh, that's what I was talking about. A more common example of this, you've been through too much to be average, is I tell people, in order to be absent from the body and present with the Lord, to see the supernatural person that God wants you to be in spirit and see as spirit, hear as spirit, to act as spirit, to act in Imago Dei, you got to be absent from your body and present with the Lord. What does that mean? Not dead, be in a casket in the grave. Absent from your body, present with the Lord means you're right here on earth, but you're in spirit. You're fasting, which means you're in spirit and your flesh is under. Your flesh, you're not listening to your flesh. You're not catering to your flesh. You're in spirit. You're reading his word. You're praying in your heavenly language, in your tongue, right? You're confessing his word. Praying, fast, that kind of thing. You're absent from your body, present with the Lord. And a lot of people say, well, I can't fast. I can't do without food. When I say you've been through too much to be average, there are many people that went without food because you didn't have money. You grew up in poverty. You even experienced some poverty in your adult life because of things that happened in your childhood. So because you didn't get a proper education, because you don't know how to sell yourself, as in market yourself, because you don't want to speak up for yourself in business. You're afraid to give people, a price. You're afraid to give them a price, a cost that you're satisfied with, that's going to take care of what you put into the product or whatever. So you end up in poverty. You've not eaten before when you've been hurt by somebody, you've been wounded, you're sick, you just feel a certain way. And so when people say, well, I can't fast, it's hard for me, trust me, you fasted before, okay? Because a lot of you have fasted because you didn't have money to eat, all right? Whether you were on a trip, or it could have been temporary, or it could have been the fact that you just didn't have enough money to go around. You fasted as a child, but now all of a sudden you got a little bit of something, but you've been through too much to be average. Whatever it is that God is calling you to do, expand the business, start the business, write the book, start the organization, host the training, start the course, whatever it is, build a relationship, get married, stay married, whatever it is God calling you to do. You've been through too much to be, you've already been through enough to show that you know how to weather a storm. You know how to build from scratch. You know how to take nothing and make something. I put that in the book. You cut from a different cloth. I'm cut from a different cloth. Okay. I had somebody, like I said, another young lady who had a much more traumatic life than me, as far as being molested by mother's boyfriends for drugs and all that kind of stuff, and watching people to kill themselves in front of her, and all types of crazy foolishness that, once again, just like Viola Davis's book, she makes me look like I was born as a rich kid, with a perfect life in Beverly Hills compared to her trauma, right? What was I saying? What was I saying? Man, I'm not sure where I was going with that, right? But, that's what I was saying. She basically said the New York state of mind, or the same thing I said, don't act like you never fasted before because you've been without food. She said she's a real estate guru. She's a real estate developer now. She's very good at doing it. She's very successful, she's just very accomplished with this, right? And she said the reason why, I could get a lot of cheese because I was willing to take risks and take chances. She said, because I already know what it's like to have nothing. I already know what it's like to be at rock bottom, so I'm not afraid of anything. Like, you think, people trying to be racist against me because, a lot of black women, black people, especially black women, are not necessarily in real estate, at this time or whatever. She said people trying to, go against me and go, do deals against me, people telling me no, me thinking I might lose everything. She said, first of all, I didn't have a lot to lose. Second of all, I know what it's like to go hungry. I know what it's like to have no lights and no heat. And, her mom, abandoned them for drugs and things. She was like, I know what it's like to have nothing, so I'm not afraid of anything. That's a New York state of mind. Some of you all stop being afraid to do that business. Like, what if I lose everything? Guess what? You've been without before. First of all, stop thinking, what if I lose everything? Because you're going to attract that to you. What you think about, you bring about. What you speak about, you bring about. I talk about that in the Better Than Average Elevated book and course. But stop doing that and get around people that are going to help you to think that anything positive could happen. Because think about it. If I came through a drug-addicted mother, a drug-addicted family, poverty, homelessness, I came through and God was able to bless me to be and have what's going on in my life now. Anything can happen. If Jesus could be born to a virgin mother, okay, die and get up and again, be raised again from the dead, anything could happen. If you have faith to believe in that, it might not even be faith. You know that you came through something else. Anything can happen. Great things can happen. If you can come through all that bad stuff on a positive note, you can come through and do anything. You've been through too much to be average. I'm gonna leave y'all tonight. Now, once again, I want to say, keep an ear out. I did a very soft launch. It wasn't really a soft launch. I just kind of introduced my school today, Trauma Training University. God is great. Gonna train millions of people. With that, gonna help millions of people be healed, delivered, empowered, and elevated. By helping communities become more trauma informed and trauma responsive. I'll be doing a community wide series in September with 3 parts to it. You can get CEUs if you need those continuing education units. And so I'm super grateful. God is doing great things in my life, but I know that I've been through too much to be average. I know if you're on here, if you even jump on here for 13 seconds, you were called on here. You've been through too much to be average. It's something you're afraid of doing. You've been hesitating. You've been putting it off, procrastinating. And I've heard several people say this. Somebody told me that Israel Houghton said it, but I think he may have got it from somewhere else. I don't know. But I've heard several people say this. Says you have to take advantage of the opportunity of a lifetime in the lifetime of the opportunity. Okay? You have to take advantage of the opportunity of a lifetime during the lifetime of the opportunity. Meaning, some of you out there, some grace going on right now. There's some windows open. There's some things that God has available for you. But if he sees you're not going to do anything with it, he's not going to waste the opportunity on you. All right? And so stop waiting, thinking about like, what if I lose? Guess what? You're already losing if you're living below where God wants you to be. You're already losing. You're already struggling. You're already settling. Okay? You've been through too much to be average. You know what it's like to have nothing. So if you lost everything, which you're not, stop thinking like that unless you keep thinking like that. If you lost everything, you've been without before, okay? If you had to lose some people, you've been without people before. You've been through too much to be average. You've already proven that you know how to get through some stuff. You've already proven that you're cut from a different cloth. You put yourself in that New York state of mind. If I can make it through that, I can make it through anything. If you were molested as a child, and you made it through that, guess what? You can make it through people forerunner friction. People hating on you because you're the first person in your family to own a business and to leave the world system of working a job you hate, or you went for the promotion. You overcame some of the craziest, most traumatic stuff. Guess what? You can overcome on your way to your goal as well. Stop. You've been through too much to be average. God sent me here tonight to tell you you've been through too much to be average. And just like Jesus, just like myself, we came into this world as a miracle. I'm supposed to be a miracle every day of my life. I'm supposed to be doing miracles, being miraculous every day of my life. Because if I could come through a drug-addicted mother and not be addicted to drugs, not be underweight, not be mentally retarded, not be stillborn, and really have high intellect, have high ambition, have high anointing, that's only God. And God says, I didn't save you just to be average. I didn't save you just to settle. I didn't save you just to struggle. I saved you to shine and to glorify me. Because when you were born out of all that foolishness, whether it was in the womb like me, and then after when you were born like me, or if you say, well, my mother was fine or whatever, when I came out, we had stuff going on at home with stuff. I experienced this at school. I experienced this by growing up poor. I experienced this, and this. If you came through all that, God says, I did it for a reason. Moses, your mother had to abandon you. It's not abandonment. She was freeing you to do my work. God, listen, you have been through too much to be average. Share this video. This is a powerful video. I did it in my sunglasses, not because I'm high, not because I'm, my husband blacked my eye, but because I wanted to do something that wasn't average tonight. It's nighttime. I'm in my house, but I still got on my sunglasses to communicate to you that you've been through too much to be average. Average and below average is not for you, because if that were the case, you would have came in through normal circumstances, but you didn't. You overcame traumas. You played aces. Now you got to help other people play aces. What is one of my favorite sayings? And I said all of these are my favorite sayings, but if God gave it to me, I love it. It pertains to my life. It's helping a lot of people. And I'm going to close with this. Grow up and show up because somebody's depending on you. Somebody needs you, even if they act like they hate you. Your family members, they're jealous. They don't know how to comprehend the things that you're doing, but they need you to shine. They need you to show up, just to show them and other generations that it can be done, right? Grow up and show up. Somebody's depending on you. You didn't come through all the trauma you came through just to say you came through it. You came through to show somebody it can be done. Start showing up. Get into the life, whatever life God gave you to live, the gift he gave you to give to the world. Stop being afraid to show it. Stop being afraid to promote it and market it. Stop being afraid to step out on faith and expand your business, or at least start a side gig. If you say, I don't have the faith yet to leave this, but I can put a little faith to start the business. I can expand the business. I can have a goal to a time for me to leave my job and go full time in my business. I want to make this relationship work. I want to be married. I want to stay married because I'm the first person in my family to overcome this. Listen, you've been through too much to be average. Okay. To whom much is given, much is. God said, I gave you enough because I knew I gave you this because I knew you was going to require this. Okay. You don't need a big. Somebody was just telling me today. Somebody, I had gotten a larger truck for my family. It was really not for my kids and and my husband, but really for my mom and my aunt, who are part of my family as well. And I'm like, I know it'll never be an issue because it's a blessing that God gave me to bless others. And so you don't need a big SUV if it's just you, right? Now you may want one and you may be able to afford one, that's fine. But God says you don't need a lot when I'm not going to require a lot of you. Come on, Holy Ghost. Moses, I need you. That's why your mother had to give you away, because I need you. And if you stayed with her, you would have been a slave or you would have died as a baby, because Pharaoh was on the loose and you would have been born a slave. Your mom wasn't a slave. Victoria, your mother had to give you up because she was a slave to drugs, a slave to the streets, a slave to aces in her life that she never played. Those adverse childhood experiences that went on, that she didn't grow up with a mother. Whatever else happened in her childhood that she was trying to medicate that pain throughout her life with heroin and crack and alcohol and sex and all that kind of stuff. And if you would have stayed with her, you would have been a prisoner. You would have been enslaved just like her. I had to let her send you up the river like Moses sent her. Moses' mom sent him up the river. Listen, I'm excited. I'm so excited about Trauma Training University. I just released the announcement of it today. I should have a lot of more information coming about it soon. In September, I'll do my first community-wide training. Some of the trainings that I've done for private organizations, and I've done a few for the community, but I'm going to be opening up that and some of the edutainment events that I'm doing around helping communities become more trauma-informed, trauma-responsive, doing book studies on like Viola Davis's book, Finding Me, powerful story of overcoming trauma. My book, Play Your Ace Before It Plays You, How to Use Social Trauma for Empowerment Rather Than Imprisonment. The book, What Happened to You, Conversations on Trauma, Healing, and Resilience, I think, by Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Bruce Perry. I've done a book study on that before. Those are some of the things. The poverty, overcoming poverty summit, I'll be doing that. We're going to have, that's going to be a major event. But Trauma Training University is something God birthed out of me. I know it's going to empower, elevate, heal, and deliver millions of lives. I'm excited about it. I'm glad that God chose me. I'm excited about, just helping a lot of people. I love you all, and I want you to remember you can learn your way out of every situation and onto any destination. That's why you and I are connected, because you have been through too much to be average. I know, because I've been through too much to be average, and we're connected. All right, share this video. Go back over this video. And I want you to have a wonderful night, a great day, an Imago Day. I love you. I'll see you soon. Share the video. Stay on the lookout for the community trainings that are coming up. And I'll talk to you later. Good night.